Hello friends from beyond. Genshin has just released some information about a new character from Inazuma, Kirara, and I thought it might be a nice thing to do to try to predict what she could be doing, what she does, what's her outfit design based off from before any leaks or information being shown. So we can see how accurate we are in guessing what kind of things she will be doing based off what kind of information they've already shown us from day one. So let's begin. They did tell us that she's a Necromancer, a two-tailed yokai beast, which means we can go on the search based off just that information. Other than that, why was Goro being mentioned right here? Like, is there going to be some reference to Goro? Well, I suppose there might be, because we look into what she works in as. She's a gold level courier for the Komania Express. Now, it might not sound much, and even though this is a famous delivery company, it's a name that we didn't know much, so I thought it'd be nice to break down what does Komania mean. Now, it appears that Komania can be split into two parts, Koma and Nia. And Koma itself can be linked to a derivation of Koma Inu, which is a stone dog statue that is often placed outside of a shrine. And believe it or not, Koma Inu has details that is quite associated to that of Goro, which is probably why Goro is being mentioned here for no reason. Other than that, what about Nia? Now, Nia is kind of interesting since this is going to be a name for a company. If you look into what a name meant, it actually meant compassion, kindness, and people for a girl name, which is associated to the idea of what Kirara is. So we can see why this company would not actually release Kirara for any weird reason, given their company value seems to align to what Kirara is. So with that, that is it for the part about Komania. Now, we did talk about her being a gold level courier. That aspect was her being safe and punctual, service assured, vivacious and adorable. Now, vivacious and adorable probably is going to refer to her design, so that's not much to go on, but service assured and safe and punctual could be some element to reference how she's going to perform her kit. Like, we know that when we look into a character drip marketing, tends to be a frame of the character burst animation, especially for 4 stars. So we're going to assume that this is likely going to be a burst animation in one frame. So she's going to be holding her parcel and she's appear to be going to be on the run. Now, she's also a courier, which means that she's likely going to be associated to using her burst to run around, perhaps. And they also did mention that she's going to keep the customers' parcel safe and punctual and service being assured, which means that there's no way she's going to be opening out her boxes to throw at her targets or enemies or what sort. So best guess, she might be manipulating something else as she's running to help do something in the battlefield. So that's going to be something we're going to try to find if there's any link or information we can find from Necomata. That said though, there is 2 elements from this that they did mention about her yokai reference. Like, her obvious nature as a yokai did drew more than a few comments at first. And also in the later part, she finds herself being fired by the company. All she can do is to return to being a yokai in the mountains. Now, this too is part of what Necomata is being known for. Now, the first part where it drew more comments, that's because Necomata itself is a yokai that has more malicious intention, but this is Kirara, so she's going to be doing opposite things of what Necomata usually do. Now, the second part is about her returning to mountains. Now, that is just purely on the lore basis of what Necomata does in the past. Other than that, now we are going to focus on the Nekotama aspect. Now, I leave it to here because Nekotama itself has quite a few details to cover. Like, you'll be pleased to know that just with the Nekotama information itself, we might be able to extrapolate what kind of weapon user she is, because based off one of the story in the past, Kankyo Ho-in, to describe that of Nekotama, which basically depicts an old cat that's being raised in a prestigious mountain villa. And what's surprising is what it was held in its mouth. which is a secret treasure, and more specifically, a protective sword. Basically means that Nekotama looks like one of the Dark Souls bosses, but that also means that we got a clue that Genshin might try to get inspired by this element and make Kirara and sword wielder. As such, it's only fitting to give her the right equipment to represent her. Now that's not all about Nekotama, because besides knowing that she might be a sword user, it's worth noting that in the same tale, it's also being specified that Nekotama is known to be a shapeshifter. Now, what does this mean? Now that does mean that one of the ability that they are going to try to depict Kirara is to be doing is to be that of a shapeshifter. Now, shapeshifter itself has not much information, so we need to dig into further information, which is the next ability that's known for her to be able to manipulate fires. Now, that instance being described in most of the tale is that the more mistreated the cat was before it turns into a Nekotama, the stronger it gets. Now, we know that Kirara's tales is a little bit different. She is more social to people. People likes her. So maybe we got a different element this time around, where the more people likes her, the more powerful something happens. So in some sense, maybe her ability is going to be closer to that of a support class. She might be a buffer of sort. Now, what kind of buffer maybe is linked to this fire ability? Because most of the depiction of Nekotama in the past from different animes like Kirara, pretty sure it's not a coincidence, from Inuyasha, and also in another depiction, Gusto from Yokai Watch. Now, I only picked these two, despite there's more, because Nekotama in other series tends to show them in the more malicious side, except for another one, but that part is a bit spoiler side. So let's just say that Genshin is actually more motivated by Kirara's elements. Although I didn't watch too much of the show, I did read what kind of how does she use her ability. So in some sense, what Kirara from Inuyasha do is she can shapeshift, but she do so with an fire animation across her, mainly focused on her foot, and that in turn turns her into a bigger version of herself. So maybe if Genshin were to do something like that, then Kirara is going to look like some closer to that of like Razor / Sino, where when they use a burst, there is like some form of stand, or for Sino, he becomes the avatar himself. So for Kirara, maybe she'll turn into a bigger version of a Nekotama. That's probably one idea, but that is not likely to be the case because she's after all a career, which means she's not gonna do anything with the box or trying to risk damaging the box. So at best, she's probably going to just be running away while triggering some form of effect. Now, since we probably guess that she is also an buffer class, which means for Dendro character to buff anything related to fire, it's likely going to be burning or burgeon related kind of stuff. So maybe somewhere along that line, so that she can still have some reference of her controlling flames or some sort. Now, it still doesn't explain the part about shape-shifting though, because if all she does is just to make a small adjustment and visual effect, then it doesn't really cover the idea of shape-shifting. And that actually brings to the second point. When we look closer to her details, she actually has human ears, and her cat ears actually looks a lot more like an ornament. Why is that so? Despite that she has cat paws, cat tails, but she doesn't have any cat ears. And why must she actually wear a cat ear accessory just to make sure that she looks like a complete cat yokai? Now, one speculation to that is maybe associated to her personality. Now, we know that she likes human, and as a career service, she will be facing a lot of client one-to-one. Now, the thing is, to make story more interesting, let's just say that she can't transform fully. She can only transform partially, like with her foot and her tail, but she can't develop a cat ears. Now, what this complicates her is that since she likes human, she doesn't want to deceive people into thinking that she actually turns into a complete human-like to actually fool people, because that is the main reason why Nekomata was described to have a shape-shifting capabilities. But Kirara, she's not interested in doing that. So what she does instead is she wear an cat ear hair accessory to tie her ponytail, and also to tell people that she's definitely a Necomata and she's not there to fool anyone thinking that she's a human. That's just an assumption of if they actually choose this direction. Other than that, that is probably how they're gonna fit in the idea of shape shifting. Plus, since this is an hair accessory, they might do something similar to what they did for Kuki Shinobu, where she removed her mask like as a casual idol, and for Kirara case, maybe just slightly touch on to her cat ears from time to time to show she's messing it around or something. Who knows? That's just one possibility. Now the last bit is a bit tricky. Necromancy. This is something that we can't even do. The closer we got is some sort of puppeting capabilities with like Amber, with a Baron Barney, Kole, with a Cola Amber. So perhaps, maybe, Kirara is going to do some form of manipulation of some puppets, kittens. So this actually brings her closer to that of an off-field characters, where she can keep on summoning some kind of miniatures kittens to help her attacks. That's one way they can introduce Necromancy. Otherwise, we can also think Necromancy in a twisted way. Like, Necromancy is a form of manipulating the dead. Then what she can do, since she likes people, instead of manipulating the dead, she enjoy working with people. So that is probably why it kind of linked to her personality and her design being completely opposite to the typical Necomata. That's a speculation and overview. One more thing I can probably guess about her passive though. We know that all characters has one exploration passive that can help you like maybe craft or travel better. What I can think about Kirara, she's probably going to have an speed boost passive that is kind of similar to that of Deya. Help her deliver puzzle more efficiently. Okay, and that is really it about her potential kit design based off Necomata concept. Now the next thing I want to talk about is with her design. A lot of the design element is quite carefully picked, to be honest. Like, first, we look into why she's holding a boss. I think we did mention quite a fair bit that this might represent what she's gonna do in combat. So that aside, the more important thing to note is with the company's pendant. That's definitely gonna be the company logo for Koma Nia Express. Now the last bit is with her costume design. Now her costume design might look pretty casual, fitting for a character like her to be always on the run. But more specifically, I want to draw your attention to three main design choices on her clothing. The first is with her chest ribbon, and second being some sort of like skirt, a shortened skirt to be precise. Although it's kind of like cut into two pieces by the side, but most of it still resembles that of an kind of like a schoolgirl shortened skirt. And lastly, we got a loose sock design that she's wearing at the moment. Now, all this combined actually give us a clue of what is the inspiration based off her clothing design, which, if you have probably guessed it, it is actually that of an Kogel outfit. Now, this only addressed those elements being found in her outfit design. It still didn't actually answer why is that the ribbon at the back was being tied so high up. Doesn't seem to be connected to anything, so it's more like an accessory more than a functional result of using an OB belt. Those are just some things that I don't get. And also, I will just add in this where why do they choose the brown tail for her color theme? Like, of all kind of cat species, why do they choose that of a brown cat? Other than that, you need to move on to the next part, which is the last thing to go through about their tweet. Now we can look into what constellation she is, so we can guess the design, which is going to be a small and nice thing to do. So first we look into what Arcella actually is. Now Arcella has two definitions. You might have already seen below. A small box is going to be something that's much closer to what represent Kirara. But just for fun sake, I'm going to tell you what one of the definition Arcella actually refers to. which is a type of genus of testate amoeba. Now, this amoeba has a very distinct characteristic, which has an umbrella-like structure. So, as you can guess it, she's not going to be holding a parasol to cover herself in the rain to do career services. Not likely. So instead, we got the second one, which, to further elaborate, we can break down Arcella into two parts, where we try to break it down in Latin, where arc is referring to a chest or box, while ella refers to diminutive, and basically combining that, these two elements brings us small box. So we can expect her constellation design to have some form of like box with some maybe cat design on it, so that we can get the aesthetic feel of what she is, and that's basically her constellation design. Other than that, no, thanks for watching. Let me know if you like this idea to try to break down the characters, design, inspiration, based off the limited information they've shown us. So other than that, that's it from me, and goodbye.